I even don't know why I'm here penning this. Perhaps because I have no one left to chat to, and perhaps because the internet seems to be the only place I could yell into the emptiness. I will begin from the start, but believe me, you are not ready for how crazy this becomes. All of it began on Tuesday evening. I remember the day since I left early to surprise Olivia, my wife, with her preferred sushi from that restaurant downtown. After 8 years of marriage, I felt we were still strong even if lately things hadn't been great. Possibly not the couple we used to be, but not broken. At least that is what I had persuaded myself of. The house was absolutely quiet when I got home. Usually, Olivia would work on her laptop or cook with music running in background, but that evening it was quiet. "Hey, sweetheart," I called out. "I'm home," and got no answer. Walking into the living room with a sushi bag, I noticed her phone on the coffee table. She never left her phone laying about ever. That ought to have set my first red alert. I heard a faint voice coming from above and was going to yell her name once more. I stammered. Olivia's voice, not the sound of the TV or music. She was gently, nearly conspiratorially, chatting to someone. Although my intuition advised me to stay put, curiosity, or maybe stupidity, got the better of me. I laid the sushi down and slipped upstairs. As I went toward the bedroom, her voice got clearer. Though I wasn't listening in order to eavesdropp, the words stopped me cold. She added, her tone frustrated, "I just can't do it anymore. I never will select him once more. I need a man different from him." To be honest, I hardly ever felt really loving toward him. My heart came to a stop. My brain worked to organize what I had just heard. She was speaking to someone else. And why would she say something so brutal? She continued, "I have been playing this part for quite some time. He is really dumb. I still am his ideal wife, he believes. It is nearly pitiful." My breath becomes short and my chest clenched. My head whirling, I leaned on the wall for support. She was speaking to someone else. "Is it a friend? A boyfriend?" Olivia replied, her voice now tinged with resolve. "I have to stop pretending. I should be concentrating on what I desire. I decided already. The agony in my chest was intolerable. It was like listening to the lady you love pay a eulogy for your marriage while you still live." Realizing she wasn't merely complaining, I developed a lump in my throat. She was beside me. My legs hardly able to carry me, I gently backed off. There was nothing else I needed to hear. It made no difference whoever she was chatting to. The words broke me just enough. Returning downstairs, I picked my car keys and left the house without saying anything. My mind turned back over her words like a broken record as I aimlessly wandered the streets. I never would select him once more. Her manner of saying it mattered as much as her words. Icy. Detached. Like I was, she was now free to drop. Nothing more than an obligation. That evening, I left for home, not returning. Parking at a nearby viewpoint, I gazed at the city lights, perplexed about where it all gone wrong. Had I passed over the warning signals? Was I indeed as dumb as she had said? I examined my phone at last just as the sun was starting to climb. Many calls and texts from Olivia gone missed. She did not know I had overheard her. Every one of the messages was same. "Your location is, you seem good. Please come home." Still, I ignored it. I wasn't able, since the man she was seeking for vanished. The sun was completely up when I returned to the house. I had battled every feeling you could have imagined over the evening. Passion, melancholy, incredulity. Mostly, though, I simply felt empty, like something had been cut out of me. Parking a few blocks away, I headed to the front door, bracing myself for whatever version of Olivia would be waiting inside. She came sprinting toward me as soon as I entered, her look a mix of fright and false relief. "Oh my gosh. You were in where?" "I started to get really anxious," she said, wrapping her arms around me. Her worries tasted like poison. I said, maintaining a neutral tone, "Simply needed some air." I couldn't let her know I had heard everything. "Not quite yet. I wanted to test how far she would go if she was so keen to pretend to be a worried wife. She remarked, pulling back to look at me, "You could have at least answered your phone. I figured something had happened to you." The confidence. I pushed down the need to find out if she had been more concerned about my secret being out or me. Rather, I said, "Sorry." It was a bad night, and gave her a feeble grin. She picked it out, or at least acted as though. She offered, already on her way to the kitchen, some coffee. I trailed her, seeing her go about as though nothing was unusual. She was not acting out of mere compassion. She was rather good at it. Perfect, too. I had accepted every lie she had given me, every false smile, every empty promise for years. She had been this person for how long? And for what length of time had I been oblivious to it? I decided to experiment as she poured the coffee. "Last night, with whom were you talking?" I asked casually, feigning to go through my phone. She stopped for just one brief moment. Therefore, most individuals would not have seen right away. I did, though. "What you imply here?" "Her back still to me," she asked. Keeping a low tone, I said, "Thinking I heard you on the phone when I got home. I went back out since I wanted not to interrupt." "Oh," she responded, turning around and laughing forcedly. "I was chatting with my mother just now. She had lately become really stressed." Her mother. She gave that as her justification. Though I knew she was lying, I refrained from probing more. Not quite yet. The rest of the day blurred together. Olivia seemed as though everything was good, but I started to notice the tiny things now. She avoided eye contact when she felt I was watching, constantly checking her phone, and her grin fell short of really reaching her eyes. After she nodded off that evening, I made the decision to do something I hadn't done in our whole marriage. I checked her phone. Unlocking it using the code I had memorized months ago but never used made me feel like a criminal. That verified everything. Messages with someone preserved as R presented an image I didn't want to see. Plans to meet, inside jokes, and flirty texts. As I read one especially, my stomach turned over. "Yesterday night was fantastic. To see you once more excites me. I will inform him shortly. I just have to wait for the proper moment." I lost all ability to read. I returned the phone exactly as I had discovered and headed to the bathroom, misting cool water over my face. My mirror turned back at me, hollow and unrecognizable. She was going to be leaving me. That was abundantly evident. I still didn't know, though, how far this treachery extended. Was R merely flirting? Alternatively, has this been going on for months, possibly years? I realized I had to find answers, accurate responses. I couldn't face her yet, though. I had to be more clever than her if I sought the truth. Laying next to Olivia in bed that evening, I couldn't help but wonder how many nights she had spent in someone else's arms while I slept here alone, blissfully ignorant. The thinking made my skin crawl. Though I had no notion how I would approach this, one thing was certain. I wasn't not going to let her break me without struggle. The last few days were intolerable. While I had to seem like the loving husband I no longer felt like, Olivia carried on her farce as though nothing had changed. I wondered whether she was on her way to visit R every time she grinned at me and every time she kissed me farewell. The lies stifling me loomed between us. I was not going to let this, though, ruin me. Still not yet. She had another item coming if she felt she could outsmart me. I had to be long-term player, compile as much data as I could before facing her. I was not going to walk away without knowing the whole truth. I started by assigning a private investigator. I made no hasty decisions about this. Hiring someone to delve into your own wife's life feels like crossing a line you cannot undo after all. But I wanted responses quickly and desperately. Henry, the investigator, a straightforward man, promised me he would be covert. "She won't even know I exist," he remarked at our first meeting. "I'll have you anything you need in a week." And week. Though I agreed, it seemed like a lifetime. I had to keep acting in the meanwhile. Every dinner discussion, every belly laugh, every night in bed seemed like pain. Once reassuring, Olivia's touch seemed to me like needles on my skin. I began to worry whether she would have noticed how rigid I had gotten around her. If she did, though, she hid it. She slipped then on Thursday night. Just a little, but sufficient to start alarms. Sitting in the living room, we watched some pointless TV show. Her phone chimed and she grabbed it fast, illuminating her face in a way I hadn't seen in years. She tried to stifle her response, but I saw it. Before she covered it with apathy, a fleeting second of perfect delight. "Who is it?" Keeping my tone laid back, I asked. "Just my mother," she murmured without pause, rapidly lowering the phone face down on the coffee table. Once more, her mother. Exactly. I filed the moment away instead of pushing forward. Olivia was not merely fabricating stories. She found lying to be easy. She had been doing it for so long that she found it easy. The insight turned my stomach over. Henry gave me a call the following day. "We have to meet," he said. "You will want to see what I have here." I met him outside of town at a little cafe. Grasping a folder, he seemed austere. He said, letting the pictures speak for themselves. My universe slanted on its axis when I opened the folder. Olivia was there, grinning, laughing, clutching hands with a man I cannot identify. They were not being subtle, Thab. The pictures showed them in a restaurant, strolling in a park, and lastly sharing a hotel stay. As I turned over every picture, my gut turned over too, the treachery striking like a freight train. "I spent 2 days following her," Henry remarked. "She got together with him twice." The man going by Derek as I quickly checked his past. He works as a marketing consultant. He is unmarried without children. Derek. This was R then, the man that had pilfers my wife. Alternatively, she might have freely given herself to him. It made no difference. Her choice of him above me was what counted. "Do you want me to keep searching?" Henry questioned. I gave my head a shake. "Number. Enough is said here. Enough to validate my already knowledge. Enough to wipe out whatever optimism I still harbored for our marriage." When I got home that evening, Olivia was humming to herself in the kitchen making dinner. Totally blind to the storm building inside me, she looked up and grinned at me. "How did your day go?" As though everything were exactly normal, she asked. "It was good," I grinned and replied. "Yours?" "Busy, but good," she answered, turning back to face the stove. "I thought we could have something unique this weekend. Perhaps visit that winery we used to enjoy." Her boldness in suggesting caused my blood to simmer. She may be standing there, acting to be concerned about us, and covertly trailing another man. Though I knew it was not the appropriate time, I wanted to face her right then and there. Not now. "Yes, that sounds great," I answered, my voice steady despite the seething anger under the surface. I decided that evening as she slept soundly next to me. From me already, Olivia had absorbed so much. My trust, my affection, my sense of security, but I wasn't going to let her rob my dignity. She would have to pay for her deeds should she wish out of this marriage, and I would be damned sure she couldn't lie her way out of it. I woke up the morning after getting the pictures with a weird clarity. I was not perplexed anymore. I'm not sure. I planned and knew what had to be done. Now it was my turn to play Olivia, after she had been playing me for God knows how long. Before her, I got out of bed gently, trying not to make noise. Standing in the kitchen with a fresh cup of coffee, I went over the pictures Henry had emailed my phone the night before. Every picture burnt inside my brain like a brand. She was there, apparently carefree and content with Derek. It was like witnessing Olivia I had not known in years, one she had taken from me and turned over to someone else. Not long later, Olivia arrived downstairs sporting one of my old t-shirts and slightly untidy hair from sleep. She yawned and produced a sleepy smile for me. "Morning," she murmured, reaching for a mug from the cupboard. "Morning," I said with a laid-back attitude. She could not see the struggle raging inside me. She poured some coffee, leaned on the counter, and studied me. "You rose early." Said unable to sleep, I sipped my coffee. This weekend was on my mind. "You brought up the winery last evening. Sounds like a great concept. We haven't had a day simply for us in some time." Her eyes grew significantly, and I detected the smallest flutter of shame before she covered it with a grin. "Surely. It sounds fantastic." It was not fantastic. It proved to be a test. Spending the weekend with her while she was juggling her hidden life with Derek would let me observe how she would respond. Should she offer an excuse, I would know she intended to visit him. If she agreed, she was sure enough in her lies to believe she could keep deceiving me. Still, I gained knowledge in any case. The remainder of the day went like every other. Olivia worked from home, sometimes stopping in the living room to talk with me. She questioned me about work, laughed at my jokes, and even that we go movie watching after dinner. We would look to anybody on the outside like the ideal pair, but I knew better now. I felt the fissures under the surface. I went over her phone once more that evening while she was showering. As I unlocked it, my hands shook, partly anticipating the worst and half hoping for nothing fresh. Derek still had the books, and they were just as nasty as before. He had written earlier that day, "I am looking forward seeing you once more. Are you still good on Saturday?" "Of course," Olivia had responded. "I have to tell him I have to see my mother. He is not suspicious in anything." My blood boiled as I turned over the words. She had her alibi already under development. Though not enough to cause her to rethink her plans, the winery proposal had thrown her off. I secured the phone and returned it precisely where I had discovered it. The shower still ran, and I had just enough time to gather myself before she returned into the room. As we lay in bed later that evening, Olivia curled up to me with her head on my chest. She murmured, "Love you," her voice gentle and sweet. The words seemed like daggers. Though I wanted to yell at her, demand to know how she could say that to me while betraying me so totally, I refrained. I answered, "I love you too," after only kissing her top of the head. Though I loathed myself for saying it, I needed her to believe I still lived in the shadows. I could not let her see the storm building inside me if I wanted the upper hand. I phoned Henry the following day and advised him to track Olivia during the weekend. I said she is meeting him on Saturday. I am looking for concrete evidence. Henry promised me you would understand. You're acting correctly. That wasn't clear to me either. Though I wasn't ready for it yet, the correct thing would have been to face her right away and call her out for the lies and the treachery. Before I moved, I wanted to be sure I had every bit of proof I could collect. Olivia stayed true to her tale about seeing her mother as Saturday drew near. She even packed an overnight bag and kissed me on the cheek before she went. "Don't work too hard while I'm away," she advised with a light-hearted grin. My heart hammering in my chest, I watched her head off. Henry was already on her track, and by the end of the day, I knew he would come back to me. The hours passed while I watched for his call. Nothing could help me to concentrate on. TV, literature, even eating seemed difficult. Every moment of our marriage kept playing back in my head, looking for indicators I could have missed. And at last, my phone buzzed. Henry came first. She met him in a motel. He said without embellishments, "I have everything with timestamps and pictures. By tonight, you'll have it everything." My hands shaking as I laid the phone down, I hung silently. It was authentic. She was really gone, not only emotionally checked out. Sitting there in our house in quiet, I came to see this went beyond her affair now. This concerned recovering my dignity, my feeling of self. Olivia considered she could have it all. Her lover, her lies, her unconscious husband. She was misled, though. I was not going to be the docile, naive man she envisioned. The period of time for acting was almost over. Some of the longest hours I have ever lived were those after Henry's call. I walked the home, each step motivated by a mixture of grief and resentment. She and Derek were in a hotel. She was laughing at that same moment, stroking him, perhaps even lying to him the same falsehoods she had told me. It felt intolerable weight all about. Later that evening, Henry's report arrived. My laptop open, I sat at the kitchen table staring at the email. Photographs, timestamps, and thorough notes on all Olivia had accomplished that day were attached. Hesitantly not clicking the attachments, my hand hung over the mouse. She seemed like that, content with someone else, and I wanted different. I pushed myself, though, to glance. She was seen in the first picture strolling into the hotel lobby, wearing the same clothes she had kissed me farewell in that morning. Her stance was sure, her grin brilliant. She looked not like a lady burdened with guilt. Her and Derek were seated at the hotel bar in the following picture, giggling over drinks. She leaned into him as his arm was sloppily slung across the rear of her chair, like her secure refuge. And then I broke over that picture. One could see them walking into an elevator hand-holding. The timestamp verified my existing knowledge. Their departure from the hotel took hours. Henry's notes closed in the voids. He had trailed them from the pub to the lift and waited in the lobby. Eventually, they descended laughing and clutching hands like nothing else could touch them. After dinner at a neighboring eatery, they would have returned to the hotel for the night. The boldness of all made my blood boil. Olivia had not just disappointed me. She had done it so boldly, so confidently, as though she believed I would never know. Sitting there, poring at the pictures, I seemed to spend hours. I could feel the rage developing. I also experienced something else, though. Clearliness. Unquestionably, the evidence supported one another. She could not alter the truth or find any place for apologies. That evening, Olivia arrived home, and I was ready. At least I felt I was. Her smile lit up her face as soon as she passed through the door. She said, laying her overnight bag down, "Hey, sweetheart. Your day was how?" "Good," I said, my voice quiet. "Just too peaceful." She bent her head to examine me. "All right. You appear huff." "I'm good," stated once again with a forced smile. "Simply worn out." It was good relief when she stopped pressing. I doubted my own ability to maintain the farce for very long. She left me alone in the living room after kissing me on the cheek and proceeded upstairs to unload. Though something kept me back, I wanted to face her right then and there. Perhaps it was anxiety. Concern about her response and about what she could say. Alternatively, it might have been something more fundamental. Part of me still yearned for a version of Olivia who loved me, who would have come clean on her own given enough concern. I chose to try her early the following morning. Acting as though everything was very normal, I brought her coffee into bed. So I said casually, "How was your mother? Did the two of you enjoy yourselves?" Olivia missed no beats at all. "Oh, sure," she said while seated and sipping the coffee. "She has been anxious about certain family matters, but our visit was good." What got to me was her simplicity in lying. She did not falter over her remarks. She did not hesitate. She seemed to be really believing her own story. "Regarding you as well?" Her tone light as she requested. "You did what while I was away?" "Not much," I said, maintaining a steady voice, caught up on some work, then lounged about the home. She grinned, totally ignorant of the tempest building under her feet. I phoned Henry later that day to ask for one last favor. "Something she cannot dispute," I said. "I need a recording of her with him." "Are you clear about this?" "It will take some time," he remarked. "Sure, I can do it, though." That started the wheels to turn. I was not only going to face her, I was going to see to it she couldn't flee the truth. I carried on behaving as though nothing was wrong during the following few days. Olivia, for her part, appeared uninformed. She carried on with her routines, periodically messaging on her phone when she felt I was not looking. Nonetheless, I was searching. I could see everything right now. On Thursday at last, Henry gave an update. "I picked up the tape," he said. "All there is. You ought to find this interesting." He emailed me the file. I listened to it by myself in my car. As I pushed play, my hands shook as Olivia's voice filled the little room. "When I'm with you," she remarked, her tone kind and personal, "I feel so free. Years apart, I haven't felt this alive." Derek spoke next. "You are deserving more than him. You deserve someone who brings delight into your life," Olivia answered. "And I knew I was done acting. I'm about to leave him. I only have to find the correct approach to go about." The tape stopped, and I sat there startled quiet. She was not only sloppily cheating, she was organizing her leaving, intending to go from me as I was nothing. My head racing, I gripped the steering wheel. Though Olivia felt she had the advantage, she was ignorant of what I knew. I was ready to flip her world upside down, and she had no idea I possessed every piece of proof I needed. Hearing that recording, I realized I had no delay anymore. It was time to face Olivia, but I wanted to approach her in a way that would not allow her to lie. The proof was indisputable. The pictures, the books, and today the tape. But facing her personally seemed too little. Olivia had embarrassed me behind my back, and I wanted to make sure the facts surfaced in a way she couldn't spin or ignore. I thus created a schedule. Olivia had scheduled for us a modest supper with a few acquaintances, couples we had known for years, Saturday night. That was the ideal venue. That day, I was unnaturally calm. Like every other dinner gathering, I started getting ready for the evening. Unaware of what was ahead, Olivia seemed happy setting the table and cooking. She even teased about how great it was to spend time with her mum following her weekend. The irony started my stomach to turn over. The home smelled grilled chicken, and laughing permeated it by the time our friends showed up. Olivia was the ideal hostess. Her warmth and wit delighted everyone. I watched her and found great delight in her easy lying. Not just to everyone, but also to me. It was time as dinner came to an end and the talk became laid back. My heart thumping in my chest, I remained calm. Hey everybody. I started by lifting my glass. I wanted to say thank you all for showing up tonight. I have always appreciated your friendship, as has Olivia. Olivia beamingly pointed at me, obviously delighted. Ah, honey, that is really lovely. I must share something, though. I went on, my tone consistent. Something Olivia has not been open about. The room went still, all eyes on me. Olivia's smile stopped, and I could see panic slinking into her face. You speak of what? Her voice was tight as she asked. Pulling out my phone, I continued. I believe it's time everyone knew the truth. I tapped the screen, and Henry's sent me recording started to play. Olivia's voice permeated the space, her private remarks clearly to Derek. As the recording went on, the color washed from her face. Gasps resounded around the table. When it stopped, I turned straight toward Olivia. Would you kindly clarify? She stammered, her eyes darting about the room as though in quest of escape. Me? She started from not what it sounds like. Nobody thought her, though. The proof was too negative. Our friends sat in astonished silence, their faces ranging from sorrow to incredulity. Julie among them at last spoke. Olivia, how might you? Unresponsive, Olivia hid her face in her hands. I stood, experiencing an unusual mix of grief and relief. Now, you all have heard the truth. Nor to me, nor to any of you, and not allow her continue lying. I won't let her. I left Olivia to deal with her actions as I left the room. Unable to remain in the same house with Olivia, I spent the evening in a motel. My phone hummed non-stop, calls and messages from her, from our friends, from her relatives even. I paid them all little attention. I needed distance to sort through everything. Olivia was waiting for me in the living room when I got home early the following morning. She looked messy, flushed from sobbing. She replied, her voice just above a whisper. We need to discuss. I said, keeping my distance. There is nothing to talk about. You took decisions. You now must live with them. Claiming the affair meant nothing, she sought to explain herself by saying she still loved me. I wasn't purchasing it, though. The deceit, the treachery, they had chopped far too deeply. My voice quivering with passion, I said, trusting you. I handed you everything. This is how you pay me back? Tears ran down her face as she pleaded for even another opportunity. But it came too late. My decision had already been taken. I started to untangle our lives over the next 3 days. I visited with a lawyer, filed for divorce, and began searching for a new place to live. Olivia tried to fight it, sending me long, emotional notes apologizing for her and outlining how we can right things. but I was wiser. Rallying around me, the friends who had attended the dinner party gave me encouragement. They advised me I had made the proper decision and I deserved more. And I began to trust them, initially in weeks rather than years. As I had anticipated, the divorce procedure was disorganized. Olivia tried to negotiate, to hang on to objects she had no right to, but my legal counsel was merciless. By the end of it, I had obtained a just compensation and began to reconstruct my life. Far enough to feel like a fresh start, I moved into a little apartment on the other side of town. Not much, but it was mine. I had liberation for the first time in years, like a weight off my shoulders. Regarding Olivia, knowledge of her romance had traveled fast following the dinner gathering. Her family even seemed to remove themselves, and our social circle turned against her. Derek, the man she had thrown all away, vanished from sight. He had gone on to someone else last I heard, leaving Olivia to pick up the fragments. Months have passed, and although the agony hasn't totally disappeared, I'm learning to go forward. I have lately turned my attention to myself, my interests, my job, my mental health. Looking back, I find it amazing how oblivious I was to the rifts in our marriage. Though it came at such great expense, I am appreciative of the clarity I have acquired. Know this, to anyone reading this who might be going through something similar: you are due honesty, you belong in respect, and you deserve someone chosen daily by yourself. With Olivia, I lacked that. Today I know what to search for, and eventually I want to find it.